Hi everybody, it's Chris from Guilty Words, where we unravel crime one word at a time. There's a moment in every trial where emotion eclipses reason, where the words spoken are less about justice and more about control. At Donna Adelson's sentencing hearing, that moment came when her husband Harvey stood up to speak. This wasn't a routine statement of character or remorse. It was a counterattack. Harvey's words weren't crafted to soften a sentence. They were meant to rewrite the story. He said she has done nothing wrong and yet is being punished for a crime she did not commit. In just one sentence, Harvey flips the entire moral axis of the courtroom. Donna becomes the victim. The prosecution, the judge, even Danny's parents become the villains. And what follows isn't a plea for mercy, it's a linguistic rebellion. Tonight, we'll break down how Harvey Adelson weaponized language through repetition, moral inversion, and deliberate erasure to turn a sentencing hearing into a stage for denial. We'll look at how his syntax, tone, and even pronoun choices mirror classical denial language, and how in just a few paragraphs he manages to sound both grieving and accusatory. Because when a man stands before the court and says, "You have taken my wife, and you have taken my life as well," he isn't just speaking to the judge, he's speaking to history. A sentencing statement is supposed to focus on character mitigation, expressions of remorse, insight, or personal history. But instead, Harvey's speech is adversarial and accusatory, transforming the expected plea for leniency into a protest of innocence. His purpose is to challenge the legitimacy of her conviction, and his audience is the judge, but implicitly also the public record and future appeals. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Thank you, Judge, and respected officers of the court, for allowing me to speak. I have been Donna Adelson's husband for over 50 years. My wife sacrificed everything so that she could pour her heart and soul into our children, our grandchildren, and our marriage. This summer was our 54th wedding anniversary, and I had to spend it without her, hand in mind. She has done nothing wrong, and yet is being punished for a crime that she did not commit. I thought we lived in a different kind of world, but I guess I was wrong. I have listened, watched, and sat in the courtroom for the entire trial, and I could not help but scream in my mind by the witnesses that were brought forward by the prosecution who told outright lies. I didn't know that you could lie in a courtroom, but apparently you can. Danny's parents contend that they have never seen their grandchild. But for years they say they've never seen her. But Wendy has shared with me pictures and videos and letters from their visits. They have suffered immensely at the loss of their son, but they also contend to tell lies to the court about our grandchildren. Donna has always been a loving and caring wife and is innocent of the charges. A biased judge and jury were influenced by years of one-sided news pieces and social media.
Doctor.
All right, thank you for letting me continue. Donna did not participate in the heinous acts that she was convicted of doing. You are sending an innocent woman to prison. You have taken my wife and you have taken my life as well. And for what? This is not justice. It is vengeance, and it is wrong.
Harvey begins with a stance of gratitude and sentimentality. The "thank you, Judge, I have been Donna's husband for over 50 years. This is a classical ethos appeal, invoking credibility through longevity and loyalty. But very quickly, the speech shifts into logos rejection and moral outrage, discrediting the trial process itself. His opening is one of a grieving husband, and yet it In the middle, it's full of accusations and denials. He wants to reframe Donna's guilty verdict and attack the system. He's indignant and defensive. And then in the closing, he condemns justice. It's a moral reversal where the state becomes the villain, and he's defiant, a kind of tragic martyr. Harvey's emotional positioning is one of pathos. His appeal centers on loss and betrayal. He repeatedly aligns his pain with Donna's, linguistically merging their identities. You have taken my wife, and you have taken my life as well. This fusion, my life as well, converts Donna's imprisonment into a kind of shared execution. Linguistically, it performs something called metaphoric substitution. His life stands in for their marriage and mutual innocence. He also uses repetition for emotional rhythm. For years, they say they've never seen. And the repeated phrase gives a lamenting cadence, a pattern of grievance and disbelief. So Harvey uses about 7 key linguistic devices in this very short speech. The first is he positions himself as a moral authority. I thought we lived in a different kind of world, but I guess I was wrong. So this takes his personal disappointment and elevates it to a philosophical indictment of society. His moral shock is a substitute for argument. If the world is wrong, his wife must be right. Not really. He also does something very common, a claim of purity through sacrifice. My wife sacrificed everything so she could pour her heart and soul into our children, our grandchildren, and our marriage. Here, Harvey constructs Donna's moral biography, if you will. She's a saintly maternal grandmother. And this is to inoculate her against the logic of guilt. It's kind of like character laundering through emotional vocabulary, heart, soul, children, marriage. Interestingly, Chad Daybell tries to do the same thing in his letters. I am all these wonderful things, so I couldn't possibly be these other terrible things. Harvey goes on to constantly compare innocence versus corruption. He has 2 different semantic fields. The innocence field is the love, the heart, the soul, the children, the marriage, those soft, wonderful words. And the corruption field, to do with justice systems, is lies, bias, vengeance, wrong. And these 2 polar opposites force the listener to choose sides, pure domestic devotion versus the depraved system. He moves straight from this into delegitimizing the entire courtroom. I didn't know that you could lie in a courtroom, but apparently you can. Well, Harvey, did you watch your son's trial? Hello? Anyway. A biased judge and jury were influenced by years of one-sided news pieces and societal and social media. These statements attack the legitimacy of every actor in this, the prosecution, witnesses, media, even the judge. And linguistically, he's eroding institutional authority through what we call an epistemic stance. That's what we know. So asserting what can and cannot be known. So by claiming this epistemic shock, I didn't know you could lie, he repositions himself as the truth teller in a corrupt system. Harvey also uses pronoun framing, the us versus them setup. He relies heavily on in-group and out-group pronouns. We lived in a different kind of world. They say they've never seen. You have taken my wife. You have taken my life. And this contrast externalizes the blame and builds a persecuted we. It's tribal, it's emotional, it converts the legal process into a moral war. He also escalates throughout this. Each paragraph raises the emotional temperature. First there's gratitude and memory, then there's denial of guilt, then there's an attack on the court, followed by the reversal of justice. This is not justice, it is vengeance. That final triad of justice, vengeance, and wrong is structured like a sermon. It's short, it's emphatic, it's moralistic. It replaces judicial language with biblical diction. It turns the courtroom into a moral battlefield. And ironically, there's also interruption and control dynamics that kind of reflect the whole thing accidentally. When the judge interrupts him to say, "Doctor, this has nothing to do with the character of the defendant," and we see this linguistic clash of domains, if you will. The judge is enforcing procedural discourse, that this needs to be relevant to the sentencing. But Harvey is using a personal discourse, emotional defense, and moral outrage. The interruption itself is almost symbolic, an authority silencing a grieving husband, reinforcing Harvey's self-image as a truth suppressed by power. But there are several themes which are expressed through these linguistic techniques. The first is this reversal of victimhood. Harvey linguistically inverts roles. Donna and Harvey become the victims. The court and the prosecution become aggressors. He even attempts to reassign deceit to Danny's parents, a direct moral counterattack. And there's erasure of the actual victim. Notice what's missing here. Zero mention of Dan Markell by name. No acknowledgement of his death, his children's loss, or Donna's alleged role. This is an erasure strategy, omission as denial. The linguistic absence of the real victim centers Donna as the true casualty. He also overreaches with his semantics. He has this language of totality, everything, nothing, entire, always, never. It signals this absolutism. It's a mind refusing any kind of nuance, and it's a characteristic of belief perseverance and defensive rhetoric. Denial itself has its own rhetoric, and Harvey exhibits a lot of it. For example, hyperbole, she sacrificed everything. And this is emotional inflation to overwrite facts. She didn't really sacrifice everything. Absolutist phrases, she has done nothing wrong. Moral totalization, nothing. What a saint Donna is, according to Harvey. He uses passive voice, is being punished. This is to obscure who did what and shift the blame. He asks rhetorical questions. And for what? And this invokes that martyrdom and makes it very dramatic. And parallelism. You have taken my wife, and you have taken my life. It's pathos in a rhythmic style and self-victimization. Let's take a moment to look at his tone as well. In his emotional register, it's high. He shows grief, outrage, and disbelief. In his knowledge stance, epistemic stance, he's certain there is no hedging, there is no I think. His moral stance is just good versus evil. His interpersonal tone is confrontational towards the system, but reverent towards Donna. And his performance, he wants to reclaim moral ground and rewrite the narrative for legacy, not leniency. So what conclusions can we draw from all this? Well, Harvey Adelson's statement is less a plea than a counter-narrative. It's a spoken manifesto of disbelief in institutional justice. Linguistically, it functions as a rehabilitation of Donna's image through this domestic devotion, and it delegitimizes the court through moral outrage. He tries to emotionally realign the victimhood from Dan Markell over to the Adelsens. And what's really interesting is it exposes a consistent pattern with the entire Adelson family. When cornered legally, they respond rhetorically by rewriting guilt as persecution. I think Donna's exactly where she needs to be. And I think Harvey may never see a courtroom, but he is paying in a lot of different ways. I don't know the last time he saw his grandchildren. Thank you for joining me tonight. I appreciate your time. Please let me know in the comments below, what did you think of Harvey's speech? It was shocking on a lot of levels, and I'd love to know what really stood out to you. And until we meet in our next video, please use your words kindly, wisely, and well. Take care.